Hello learners. So far we have seen what is slump test, how it has to be done, what is true slump, shear slump and collapse. Now we'll try to understand a bit more in detail and also from practical point of view, right? So see, there are three kinds of slump usually. The first is a true slump. You can see it here, no? So this is called as true slump. The second one is called a shear slump. Why? Because this much portion has got sheared off, right? Due to less cement paste and all. So that is called a shear slump. And third is called as collapse. So the collapse means there's more water contained in this, or let us say there was more water cement ratio. So that is the reason there is a collapse of this. And sometimes even people represent as a zero slump. So what do you mean by zero slump? The zero slump means, see, let us say I had taken a cone initially. This was my cone initially, right? And I had filled a concrete in that. And once I lifted the cone, right, then what will happen? Certain subsidence is going to happen, like you see in the true slump. But in the zero slump, what is going to happen? Before the removal of the slump cone and after the removal of the slump cone, right, what is going to happen? Your concrete is not going to subsidize. It's going to remain in the same position before and after. So that is why we call it as zero slump. And the same thing we had seen in the observation what we had written. If I go back to that, see, so in this you can see it, no, for the water cement ratio of 0.6, initial reading was 5 and final reading also was 5. And what is the slump here? This is called as 0. That means it was a zero slump, right? So why this is happening? Because the water cement ratio 0.6 is very less. As a result of this, there is no slump created. So whenever we say zero slump, that doesn't mean that there is no water at all. There is water, only then it becomes a concrete, right? But only the thing is that what is not capable of creating that slump, so hence we call it as zero slump, or there is no subsidence of that. So the hence we call it as a zero slump, right? Yeah. So next point of discussion is that, see, always remember the workability can't be zero nor it can be 100%. So what do you understand by this? See, ultimately whatever test we are doing it here, we have to understand that in terms of workability, right? That is why the test is being done. To measure the workability, we are doing the slump test. So when I say workability is 100%, or let us say, is it possible for the workability to be 100%? No. See, whenever you pour the concrete, let us say I've taken a foundation, okay, let us say this is a footing what I have, and let me drop concrete here, okay. So when I pour the concrete here, is it that without any external help, without the help of laborers and all, is it possible for the concrete alone to fill this entire foundation? It's not possible, right? Because to a certain extent concrete is workable. After that, with the help of a vibrator, or with the by deploying 1 or 2%, we have to pull the concrete, and that is how we try to place. So that is the reason 100% workability is not possible. In the same way, 0% or zero workability is also not possible. So what do you mean by zero workability? That means, let us again take this as a foundation. So when I pour the concrete here, okay, the concrete has certain internal work to be done, right? When I pour the concrete here, at least certain amount is going to move, right, on its own. Certain amount is going to move, so that means there is no zero workability. Whenever I pour the concrete, something is going to flow on its own, right? It has certain internal work. I mean, it has certain it has certain internal capacity to do the work. So that is why, always remember, workability cannot be zero. Whenever you pour the concrete will flow on its own. Even the water cement ratio is, even though it is less, it's going to flow. And 100% is never possible, because to certain extent your concrete can flow with more water cement ratio, with more water and all. After that, you have to uh, deploy a labor or a vibrator to make it flow everywhere, right? So this is the basic understanding that we need to have, that workability can never be zero nor it can be 100%. Yeah. So the next point is that, yeah. So now we have to understand this in terms of workability. So here we have collapse slump, right? This is called as collapse slump. So what do you mean by collapse slump? That means whenever we have very high workability, so then what we are going to get? We are going to get collapse slump. And what do you mean by zero slump? When we have very low workability, there is no workability at all. The moment you pour the concrete is going to stay in its same position. It's not going to flow on its own. So we measure that in terms of zero slump. So hence zero slump means very low workability. But when you, with the help of a slump test, we can never determine, or let us say the slump test what we are doing, no, for both of this slump, that is for collapse slump and for the zero slump, this test is not applicable. Your work this slump test is not capable of measuring the collapse slump and the zero slump. So now to put it in a better way, that is what I told in the beginning of this lecture. If I go back, yeah, if I go back, you can see the point written here. Slump test is preferred for the medium workability concrete mix, and it is not suitable for very wet. What do you mean by very wet? Very wet means which is having more workability, that is which is having that collapse nature, right? So if you have if your concrete is more wet, obviously when you try to remove the cone, it's going to get collapse. The collapse is happening because of more water, that is it is very wet, right? And also for very dry concrete. So what do you mean by very dry concrete? That is a zero slump. If a concrete is very dry, then there is no subsidence at all, that is a zero slump. So again, your slump test will not be in a position to measure the slump of it. That is why slump test will always fail for very wet and for the very dry concrete, right? Yeah, I hope all the basic understanding is clear. Now, from practical point of view, how it's going to help us. So if you want to have a low workability, then you should try to keep the slump in between 25 to 75 mm. Similarly, if you want to have a medium workability, the slump should be in between 50 to 100 mm. And whenever you want whenever you want high workability, you should try to keep the slump in between 100 to 150 mm. Now, if you refer the Indian standard, this is taken from IS 10 for Indian standard 456 is a code book what we refer for PCC and RCC, and 2000 is the year in which it was brought. I mean, first it was brought in 1978 if I'm not wrong, then that got revised and all. So as of now what we have is IS 456 2000 is a code book. So according to the code book, these are the slump value what they have given, slump value what they have given. You can see it here, slump in mm, it's a degree of workability, and for what placing conditions you are going to use it, whether you have a mass concreting, you have a lightly reinforced slab, whether you're using it for the beams, walls, columns, canal lining, strip footing, heavily reinforced section, slip form pavement, pumped concrete, trimmy concreting and all. So based on that, we'll try to decide how much slump I need to keep. Okay. If you have a very low workability, yeah, I have to refer the 7.1.1. We'll not see that again. If you have low workability, you can keep a slump in between 25 to 75, which I've written it here. If you have a medium, you can try to keep it in between 50 to 100 or 75 to 100. I have written it here 50 to 100. So why they have given two here? Because there are different sections here. If it is a heavy reinforced sections in the slab, then you can go with the 50 to 100. If you're going for beam, walls, columns and all, you can keep in between 75 to 100. If you want a high workability, then you can try to keep the slump in between 100 to 150. So where you're going to make use of high workability, especially in the trench field, in the in situ piling work and all. What is piling work? If you have seen the construction of the metros and all, right, the bridges, the metro and all, we try to drive the big piles there, right? So since it is very vertical, I mean since it's vertical, you have to try to keep the workability more. That means your concrete should be more fluid in nature. So as a result of that, what will happen, it will try to go everywhere, right? And the second reason is that you will be having a lot of reinforcement. What is reinforcement? Those bar what you can see, that is called as reinforcement. Let us say I have a column here, and in this column if I try to put more and more rebar is called as reinforcement bar, the steel. So as a result of that, what will happen, there is more congestion here, right? There is more reinforcement. So the if your concrete is very low workability, then what will happen, it will not try to go down, right? It will get stuck in between the reinforcement, because the aggregates will get stuck in between the reinforcement. So in that case, what I need to do, I need to go with the high workability, right? It's called as trench fill, in situ piling and all. If I have high workability, what is going to happen, since it's more fluid in nature and it is going through gravity, quickly it will try to go, it will not get blocked in between the reinforcement and all. So based on the requirement of the work, no, we try to make use of all these things, and we try to decide how much slump we have to take, how much slump we require. So after deciding from here, let us say I'm doing a beam, I want 75 to 100 mm slump. For that we try to mix design. Let us say we have done a design of 1 is to 2 is to 4, right now. For that we do the mixed design and we do the slump test, and after doing the slump test, we try to see whatever mixed design I have done, that is 1 is to 4 is 1 is to 2 is to 4, is capable of getting a slump of 75 to 100. Let us say I've done one mixed trial with 1 is to 2 is to 4. Next you are going to do with 1 is to, let us say 1.5 is to 3, Okay, so in this way different, and even if it is not satisfied, then what you try to do, you try to decrease the cement content, you try to increase the water content, or you try to play with the water cement ratio. Even if it's not happening, you try to add plasticizers and all. So those things we'll try to see in the chapter 3, where we are going to do the mixed design, right? As of now, I'm giving you a practical idea why all these things are important. Yeah. Now, see, for example, let us say you're working in a site tomorrow, you got a job. Okay, so whenever a concrete comes to the site, you have to do the very first test that you're supposed to do in the site is a slump test. So they are going to write. So these are the quality control engineer is going. Let us say if you become a quality control engineer at the site, you need to perform all these tests, and you should be knowing the entire procedure how it has to be done. So whatever we are learning here, the same thing we are going to put it in the application form. So you have to write what project you're working for, what is your project code that will be given by the company. So what is the location, in which location you're going to do. So it's written here equipment building, on which date you're doing this, right? So the grid number, this is you're going to get this from the structural drawings. What is a member, where you're going to pour this concrete, you're pouring this concrete in the footing. What is the name of the footing, the name of the footing is F1, fine. What is the size of the footing, the size of the footing is 4.4 meter by 5 meter by 450 mm is a depth of is a depth of the footing. In this footing, I'm going to do all this test. At what time you're doing the test, you're doing it at 10:45 a.m. in the morning. So what is the vehicle number, from which vehicle this concrete has arrived, they've written it here. What is the grade of a concrete, for which grade this concrete is being prepared, it is M25, it is written M25. From which plant it has come, name of the plant means this concrete is prepared in a batching plant. We'll try to see this in the next class, I mean in the next video, how the batching is done. So who is the what is the name of the plant, the name of the plant is Hariharan. And what is the slump value that is required, the slump value required is 80 mm. So all this is decided even before the start of the project, right? And then all these things will be done in the batching plant, and after that the concrete is going to come to the site. So as a site engineer or as a QC engineer, QC stand for quality control engineer, so you have to make sure you're going to get the slim 8 mm slump. And if you're getting this 80 mm slump, and if it is within the limit whatever has given to you, only then you can allow this concrete to be poured into your uh, maybe a beam footing or whatever it may be, right? Then you're going to check who has checked it, checked by which company, okay, who is the engineer in charge, approved by whom, right? Name of the company, who is the engineer in charge. Why all these things has to be done? If tomorrow if something goes wrong, you should be knowing what went wrong, right? At what time the concrete had come, whether the problem is only in the concrete which has come at 10:45 a.m. or not. All these things are important, so that is why we should know all these things, right? Yeah, let us say once everything is done, only then as an engineer will allow the concrete to be poured. As of now they are pouring it on the there is a flooring work going on, okay? So they have allowed the concrete to pour, and see here in the flooring work usually we try to keep the um, workability very less. I mean you're going to keep the slump very less, okay? Since it's a flooring work, you don't require a huge, I mean a very big slump. 78 mm is enough for us. So once that is done, they are going to pour it here, okay? I mean not 78 mm, 25 to 50 60 mm slump is enough for us for the flooring work, right? Yeah, you can see it here, this is how it has to be done. Yeah, I hope yeah, there's one more thing I want to show. Yeah, so see, yeah. Hmm. So how do you decide this mixed design, that M25 and all? See, whenever you go to lab and all, we try to prepare the mixed design for different ratios. We'll see that also. So they get a proper idea. Hmm? So you can see it here, right? So the grade of a concrete is written, which company, Ultratech is there. Okay, it's a laboratory trial mix record. Okay, you're doing the mixed design here. M30. What is the cement you are used? What is the fly ash you are used? What is the coarse aggregate? 10 mm you're using. Then you're using a 20 mm coarse aggregate. This is your mixed proportion. Okay, so how much amount of concrete you're preparing, right? All these things you're going to do. Okay, then what is the slump you're getting? Once this slump you're getting in the lab, only then you're going to go ahead with this particular grade of a concrete, and with this particular ratio you're going to do the trial and error there in the lab. Then you can see it here as well. These things are not important from exam point of view, but we are not preparing for the exam, right? Yeah, again you can see it here, right? Cement, fly ash, and how much content, cement how much you have to take, then river sand how much you have to take, how much aggregate you have to take, and what is the slump you have to get. So they have written it here. The slump they have got is collapse is what they have got, right? All these things. What is the temperature at the time of doing the mix design, right? All these things you need to write. Yeah, and only then how much cube you are going to do the testing. So all these things you have to write, and only then once your test has been passed, only then we'll approve this mixed design. And once this mixed design is approved, only then we are going to do the construction at the site. Okay, that is whether it has to be 1 is to 2 is to 4 ratio, or whether it has to be 1 is to 1.5 is to 3 ratio, or so on. So we are going to do one trial mix, two trial mix, three different, and based on that we'll try to see what is the slump value I want, and only then we are going ahead with this. Yeah, I hope the basic understanding about the slump test, its practical importance, how we need to understand everything is clear. But the lecture which is going on now, this is not required from an exam point of view, but practical point of view, this is very important. You should understand the significance of this and all those things. So we'll see you back in the next lecture.